Welcome to WonderCon! I'm your host, Chris Gore. This is a live recording of the Film Threat Podcast. We have an all-star lineup. We'll all be talking about movies we haven't seen. Sometimes you read this on the internet. People talk about all kinds of movies they haven't seen, and they have all types of opinions about those movies. Well, we're going to do it for you live. So thank you for showing up here on a Friday night at your WonderCon. Let me introduce our all-star panel, starting with Cliff Stephenson, Alan Ng, Anthony Ray Bench,
hello everyone,
Charles de Lauzirika,
hey Charlie,
Marianne Butler, and Bill Waters. So let's get started. I kid, I love Bill. Let's get started. There's a lot of great movies coming out in 2018. And by great movies, I mean I haven't seen them yet. They may or may not be great. But this panel has the answers. Let's get right to it. This is going to be rapid fire. We're going to go down the line. We're going to start with Cliff, and we're going to say, Ready Player One. What's your opinion? Go. I've seen it. You haven't. Ready Player One. What do you think? Did you read the book? What'd you think?
I didn't read the book. I'm very excited. I've always been on board with this movie. I didn't get the hate originally, and that obviously turned around when people started to see it. But I got tickets to a 70-millimeter Steven Spielberg movie in 2018. How crazy is that? I'm really looking forward to it. All right, Alan, I want to know what you think.
Yeah, I don't know a whole lot about it. The trailers make it look like this giant Easter egg hunt, where I'm just going to see a lot of things that my kids have seen for a long time. So, I saw films that include stuff from my childhood in Roger Rabbit, so I'm not sure I'm that excited about this one.
It looks like, to me, just based on the trailers, but remember, I've also seen the movie, nostalgia porn. I think nostalgia porn is a genre unto itself. Anthony, what are your thoughts?
Well, I've had two friends that bugged me about reading the book for years now, and I refuse, but I'm really excited about the movie.
Okay, Charlie.
I'm not clear, Chris. Have you seen the movie?
Yes, I've seen the movie.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Because I'm not sure. If
Absolutely seen the
film. So what did you
film.
think of it?
It's one of those cases where I really love the book. I mean, I love the book, and the book is a separate thing, and the movie is a Spielberg movie. So there you
I
go.
love Steven Spielberg. I've read the book, enjoyed it. I am cautiously optimistic. I mean, in terms of being like a great immersive, otherworldly adventure, I do worry a bit about the nostalgia porn aspect. I think we're starting to the snake is starting to eat its own tail, in terms of pop culture, in terms of nostalgia, 80s, name checking, cool stuff. But if anyone can pull it off, I think Mr. Spielberg can do it.
Well, we shall see. Marianne.
I have also seen it now.
Ooh.
What do you think? I can't answer that. I was told I can't answer that yet. I was told that, so I can't.
Good as one, bad as two.
We usually do the blink.
So if you're going off the trailers, you're going to get what's advertised in the trailers. That's what I'm going to say.
All right, cool. Bill.
I've seen it.
Yeah, push the button.
I've seen. Are you?
It's on.
Oh.
It's on. Just talk.
Hello?
Talk loud.
All right, so I've seen it as well, and I love the book. I always love the book.
And that's a great answer about the movie. Okay. Moving on. Pacific Rim Uprising opened. Yes. First of all, I love the first film. I think everyone agrees more Guillermo del Toro could not be better. But Pacific Rim Uprising, is it good? I don't know. Bill, let's start with you. We'll come back this way.
I think it was fun. I saw it a little while ago, and it's not the fresh, it's not the innovative that, oh my God, huge monsters and robots, beating each other up that was so fresh at the original. This one, we've seen that now, but this one is still, it's a heck of a lot of fun. Is it a good movie or great movie?
Okay. Marianne?
I have also seen it. It has this really cool thing where there is a lot of inclusion in the film, but it doesn't feel like it's beating you over the head with it. So it's still a film that you can enjoy, but there's still a really neat aspect of it.
What do you mean by inclusion? You mean like by.
There's a lot of women,
like,
and
but
there's a lot of not white people in
Right.
important roles in this film, and it doesn't feel like they're just in there to kind of tick off boxes. They're there, and
Right.
it feels natural.
So it's not like just a panel of white guys talking about movies and one woman and Alan. So there we are. It's not like that. It's completely different. It's different than that. Okay, good. Charlie, what is your... I want to hear what you thought about the original Pacific Rim. What are your thoughts on Uprising, having not seen it?
I very much enjoyed the original. I thought it was a lot of fun. I saw it with a great audience. With actually Guillermo there was great. I don't know. I don't really have much of a enthusiasm for the new one because it looks like it's more the same. But if I'm not going to not see it, I'll see it. I'm just not like stoked about it.
Okay, Anthony.
I'm a big fan of kaiju movies, Godzilla, Gamera, all that stuff. And the first one was a letdown for me. I wasn't the biggest fan. This one, it just looks like more of the same, like everybody else is saying, and I'm going to go see it, but I think I'm just going to be lukewarm on this one too.
Cool. Alan.
Yeah, I'm kind of a lukewarm viewer of the first one, saw it at home on DVD, and I don't know, personally I like the old days of guys in suits,
Yes.
stomping on models.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
As much as I love realism, there's something about the campiness of old that you just, I don't know, when they try to replicate it in modern films, it just doesn't feel the same, and it just seems like they're wasting a lot of money.
Okay, Cliff.
I like the first one a lot. The most interesting thing about the second Pacific Rim is that it feels like the fourth Pacific Rim. It's gotten to that stage in the franchise where it's like, well, we can't get all the cast back. Steve Guttenberg's not signed on. We're gonna do, and so it feels like they've jumped ahead 2 or 3 sequels to the point where it's like, all right, this is barely straight to video, but we're gonna give it a theatrical release. So nothing about it. I think even from the point when they said Del Toro wasn't involved, I think I kind of checked out at that point. I was like, well. It's got a different studio. It's got like everything about it is just sort of like, So that's kind of what I got from it.
I'll just say I wish it was as fun as the trailer. I love John Boyega. I think he might be one of the best parts of the movie. Not a digital effect, John Boyega, a person. But my review of the film would be something like, that's kind of where I would put it. I would just put it in that category. But okay, well, so moving on. You guys are, who's a fan of The Rock? Who loves The Rock? Everybody, yes. Let's hear some noise for The Rock. Who doesn't love The Rock? Except the review of almost every Dwayne The Rock Johnson film could be, the movie was okay, but I love The Rock. This is the review.
No, how dare you slam Fast Five?
Well, we'll see.
How dare you?
So what are our hopes for this, another video game adaptation? What's weird is a lot of people don't know that Rampage is based on a video game.
And a really weird video game.
It's a weird,
it's
it's a strange video game, but it's a fun one. So, Cliff, we'll start with you and move back this way. Where is this going to fit in the Dwayne The Rock Johnson oeuvre?
Well, I don't think it'll probably fit in right alongside Jumanji, which I don't think a lot of people had high hopes for, but ended up being really, really good.
I loved it.
And I think Rampage has the ability, I know it's a video game movie, but again, it's a really weird video game to make a movie out of, so maybe that's the thing that it has in its favor, is that if you were going to make a movie out of that game, it'd be terrible. But I don't think that's the movie they're making. I think they're making a movie called Rampage that has a couple of very specific things to the game, but it will probably end up being a good movie.
We'll see. We'll see. Alan.
Yeah, my feeling is just because you own the license to a video game, that doesn't mean you get to make a movie about it. And I'll go with your point. It doesn't feel like the game, and that's the problem with a lot of video game movies, is you just don't get the sense of the game while you're watching that movie. And unless these monsters start picking up people, eating them for power, then it's not like the game.
And like the naked guy walking across the screen.
Exactly.
I think with video game movies, you have to toe a fine line between being faithful to the game and also making it feel like people aren't just watching somebody else play the game for you. The Rock has already been in a video game adaptation, and it was crap. And I think that this one is going to be garbage. I feel like I'm really kind of a downer tonight.
You are.
Yeah.
You are.
Sorry.
God.
No, it's the movie he chose to start with.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm not looking forward to it, but it might surprise me. Jumanji was a movie that like made me furious, and even seeing the first trailer, I was just like, this looks like just garbage. But I ended up liking it and enjoying it, and I thought The Rock was excellent in it, and he's excellent in most stuff. But, you know, that only goes so far.
Charlie de Lauzirika, on our panel, you are The Rock expert, and so
I am.
I'm most interested in your opinion.
He's actually observed The Rock in the wild.
I saw The Rock walk into an Apple store once, and like the place stopped. I'm very comfortable in my sexuality. I'm engaged to a lovely lady, and that's one sexy man. He kind of came in and just owned that store. Everyone was just like beaming, like that's The Rock, and we love The Rock. That's all I have to say about Rampage. I loved the game when I was a kid. I played the game all the time.
I think it's going to be absolutely that, probably. Not again. I think it's going to be somewhat enjoyable. It's probably going to surprise people with at least one or two scenes that no one's going to expect to be as entertaining as they're going to be, but we all know that when he goes into a film like this where stuff's blowing up, where there's giant things fighting, he's usually pretty good, and that it's okay at the end. So cautiously optimistic, I guess.
I mean, this goes along with one of those films that we don't really expect much out of it. Mine doesn't work. So just hello. So yeah, I mean, we're not expecting much out of this film, so it's not really a very high bar for it to end up being entertaining. I think it'll probably be better than Skyscraper, but because it looks like more probable physics. But I'll still say he's already been in a video game adaptation since Jumanji was a PS2 game. I can say that he actually was in the adaptation.
Well, it's interesting because I don't know that there's ever been a great video game movie except for one, Wreck-It Ralph. I think it's probably the greatest video game movie ever made, not based on a what?
I will say I didn't hate the new Tomb Raider. It's dull.
You can leave now, Cliff.
No. Here's what I mean. The movie, it didn't feel like a video game movie. Like they didn't they didn't hang the entire movie on this thing being a video game where everything was a constant reference or there was constant poses. And I think that's the key to a successful video game movie is that you can't make the game because the game by nature is interactive and it changes every time you play it. But you can use the character, you can use the themes, you can use the tone of things, which I think the Tomb Raider movie did to a certain extent, without following a predetermined storyline. So if Rampage can take these elements that are like little winks and then make its own story, which is what it kind of looks like it's doing, I think you can make a good video game movie if you just don't make a game out of it.
Yeah, but you have to connect with that movie the same way you connect with the game.
Well, the problem is no kid knows what Rampage is.
Right. No, but if you talk about Tomb Raider or something, you just can't see a person called Laura Croft out there. You've got to feel like that is the video game character.
One of the biggest complaints I think about, video game movies is just connecting with the characters, right, and feeling emotional and some humanity. I'm going to admit something right now that's very serious. I have cried playing a video game. It's true. Earthbound for the Nintendo 16-bits. Look, okay, I hear giggles, but you played Earthbound. Great music. Great RPG. Yes, I cried at the end. I can say that. I'm comfortable in my whatever the masculinity I have, but I'm just saying that I cried for Earthbound and the end of BioShock. I think the end of BioShock really tugged at my heartstrings. Look, I see some people agreeing with me. I'm not completely insane, but what? So, what is the secret then to making a good video game movie? Right? Like, I want to know this.
I told you.
Yeah, that's the secret. Don't. Okay, well, moving on. A serious question. Are we ever going to see a crossover between Rampage, Pacific Rim, and the new Godzilla-verse? There should be some. Will we ever see some sort of crossover with any of those characters? I could see Pacific Rim meeting up with Godzilla or Mecha Godzilla or Mecha Ghidra
Yeah,
or Rodan.
that'd be the perfect reason to bring in Mecha Godzilla, which is one of my favorite Godzilla adversaries. Make it a Geiger, or at least start it at Giger. At least, yeah, I'm tired.
Isn't it Jaeger? I think it's Jaeger, like the drink, which we'll be having later in the bar.
We were both wrong, Charlie. Yeah, make it a Jaeger and start it out that way.
Well, Skull Island, King Kong. Did everyone see that? And did everyone leave and miss that like tag scene, which was the best? It was so awesome in that movie. It was like the tag scene where you see these drawings of it's clearly the old Toho monsters. And when is that going to happen? You know, I feel like they're making Godzilla 2. So
That's going to be happening in Godzilla 2 next year. And then after that, the plan is to do King Kong versus Godzilla.
Well, you probably read that on the internet. I'll believe it when they start advertising for it. I'm not sure if that's a fact. Okay, so now let's talk about something, I don't know. Some of the movies are good, some are not good. They're kind of building up. Avengers Infinity War. What do we think? Where is this going? It's been 10 years of Marvel movies. I know we're all sick of them. No, we're not. I can't wait. But Avengers Infinity War, where is this going? And especially for those of you who've read the comics, raise your hand. I see 5 people on the panel have read the comics. We all know that Marvel kind of cherry picks the best ideas from those comics. They're not like true adaptations per se. But I'm starting with Bill, and we'll make our way down. What are your hopes and dreams for Marvel's Infinity War? Is this a chance for them to reboot things? Are they going to diversify the universe, or more arrogant white guys? How are they going what's going to happen with Infinity War? Any speculation? Your thoughts? Where this is 10 years of building up. This is the longest question I will ask this evening. I'm sorry. But I want to get everyone's opinion on Infinity War, speak to an aspect of it, and I'll get specific later. This is my Scott Mantz imitation. Scott Mantz, previously. If you all saw the 1988 panel, probably the best
Chris,
panel
stop.
here. The second,
Stop.
Okay, great. I'm stopping. All right, Bill, let's start with you.
What was the question? Kidding. No, Infinity War, I just want them to have something that has some genuine impact on our characters. They've been kind of escaping along, and they get injured, but they're okay, they come back. Someone's got to die, and it can't be random NPC number 3. And if they don't do that, then really the gravitas that everything is going is going to, you can only string us along for so long. And it's whether they're going to have the balls to pull that off. Now, they could replace it from one Iron Man, one Tony Stark to another character in that role. Wakanda, but that's what I'm thinking. Is it could be really good, but they're going to have to make some tough character calls, and someone's going to have to die.
Well, it's interesting because kind of the way I feel about Marvel movies is, this is in a way that I'm exactly like Donald Trump. I just feel like my favorite Marvel movie is the Marvel movie I recently just saw. So Black Panther is my favorite Marvel movie right now. I think my second favorite is in Thor Ragnarok. In Thor Ragnarok, Thor lost a girlfriend, an eye, and a hammer. Horrible. So, I think I agree with you. There's got to be some stakes there. Yeah. Marianne, what are your thoughts on Infinity War?
I'm hoping it's good. If it's half as good as Civil War, I'll be very happy. I hated Ultron. It was, to me, pointless, and everything I hate about films like this, where Civil War actually had some character development and some really good moments, and I'm really hoping that this will have more of that feel. And if it does, I will be a very happy person, both as a film fan and as a comic fan and as a Marvel fan.
I'd like to hear your best guess, because I think one of the tropes of a Marvel film, I think Marvel films are beginning to have tropes, they've been around for 10 years, is every character takes their shirt off, male characters, they all take their shirts off. How many shirtless Avengers are we going to see in Avengers Infinity War? Shirtless Avengers, guess on a number.
Groot is 1.
I'm going to say 5. My number is 5. I'm going to say 5.
5. I'm going to hold you to it. This is a bet. 5? Okay, we'll see after the movie. All right. Charlie.
I don't care how many. It's fine.
But what are your thoughts on Infinity War and Marvel and just getting here 10 years?
I love Civil War. I really love Winter Soldier. I think that's probably my favorite Marvel film. But I think that Kevin Feige and the Marvel team have just done an extraordinary job of tracking all of these films over such a long period of time that it all makes sense, that I care about these characters. They're like a family now, and I'm really curious to see how they end up. The trailers have been great. It's everything I expected, and it's going to be awesome to see some of these characters interact for the first time. I mean, that bit with Tony Stark and Star-Lord in the trailer is just, I mean, that is literally one word that's said that's so fun, you know?
Well, isn't that what's interesting about the Marvel films? And, you know, is that some of the best moments have no special effects. It's people talking, right? Like that moment in Civil War when Cap sees the girl and they sort of nod and, you know, I mean, those are like some great character moments. Anthony, you've read some comics, maybe like 1 million comics.
Yeah, quite a bit. I learned how to read by reading the Infinity Gauntlet storyline, and I've come to accept that this movie is probably not going to be like even half of a direct adaptation. It just looks way too different already. But Thanos is one of my favorite villains of all time. I think he's amazing. And I'm a little worried because we had one of the greatest Marvel villains on screen just recently with Black Panther, with Killmonger. He was awesome. Michael B. Jordan really knocked it out of the park. I want Thanos to live up to that. I want Thanos to be cool, and they're throwing in like, oh, Thanos is like Darth Vader. And it's like, no, he should just be like Thanos. Just make him his own thing, make him his own compelling character. That's my only worry, because the rest of the movie looks really awesome. And I mean, we got to go to the Hall H panel at Comic-Con, and Thanos threw a fucking planet, which was a big fanboy moment for me.
All right. There's a principle in superhero films that goes like this. The more superheroes you have in the film, the lower the quality that film ultimately turns out to be.
Oh, you're speaking of Spider-Man.
And I'm speaking of Spider-Man and X3. Yeah, but, you know, Marvel has this amazing track record. The Russo brothers are involved in Infinity War. I'm highly optimistic about this one, but you know, you got to go in with low expectations if you want to get your socks blown off. And I think the Soul Stone is the MacGuffin of the film, but that's an opinion.
Oh, what? Okay, well, care to elaborate? The Soul Gem?
Soul Gem, sorry.
Yeah.
It's just the fact that no one's talking about it, or you don't see anything about it. So I would figure, you know, since no one knows where it is, they must be searching for it, and that must be the point of part one of the Infinity Wars.
Okay, all right, cool.
I'll echo a little bit of what Charlie said. I mean, it can't be overstated what a monumental task Kevin Feige, to put this string of movies together with the quality that has spanned from the first Iron Man to Black Panther. I mean, with Black Panther being one of the best movies they've made, with a character that most people don't know, that really got a very brief introduction in Civil War. And if you know anything about Hollywood, just the sheer audacity of scheduling all these actors and getting all this talent combined and putting all these people in these individual films that ultimately culminate in this one huge Lollapalooza comic book movie. I don't think we'll ever see this again. I don't think that this sort of film, I don't think anything will match Infinity War. I think that it will be far too impossible down the road for anybody else to try. I mean, Warner Brothers couldn't even pull it off with Justice League, and that was only 5 characters that they needed to wrangle up.
Don't get me started on the Universal Monsterverse.
Yeah, what is that, the Dark Universe, or what was it?
It's like,
It was going to be.
Yeah, the Dark one.
But I mean, it's unprecedented to see this thing come together and be such an amazing machine where you don't walk out going, well, that one wasn't very good, but this one was good and this one was okay. And there's, like most of these Marvel movies, you walk out and you're like, that was great. And like you said, every one you've seen, you go, Ragnarok was great, Black Panther was great, Civil War was great. Like, they're all just great movies that all feed into this one big finale that we're getting ready for. And I'm not even cautiously, I'm insanely enthusiastic for this movie.
And maybe one day Marvel will make a movie with a female lead character. It could happen. It could happen probably in November, right? Is it November?
No, I think it's early next year.
It's early next. Okay, so Captain Marvel in early 2019. What? Because you guys, but you already know this because you've read the internet. So, okay. Any other final thoughts on Marvel and what? I mean, they moved up the release date a week. There's also Marvel has a villain problem, except with the exception of I think Killmonger's probably the best villain because I believe he's sympathetic.
I personally think the move that they made from May to April is because they realized that Black Panther essentially, kind of in a way, killed A Wrinkle in Time. Like that thing ended up being so successful that it kind of crushed everything in its path. And I think they started to get nervous that they've got a Han Solo movie at the end of May. And
we'll talk about it momentarily.
But I mean, I think they felt like they needed to give it a bigger buffer because if Infinity War matches or exceeds what Black Panther did, then their Han Solo movie is in trouble.
Okay, all right. Any other final thoughts? Anyone on our panel before we move on to our next film? All right, thank you. Deadpool 2. The trailer, new trailer came out this week. Deadpool 2. Can they do it again? Will it be as vulgar and also fun and delightful and tug at your heartstrings as the first one? Bill, and we'll work our way down. What are your thoughts? Deadpool 2. Can Ryan Reynolds recapture the magic?
I would love if he could, and I hope that he can. However, again, we thought it would be fun, but we didn't know Deadpool was going to be that much fun, and then we got it. So it's kind of more like you get successes sometimes when you're not expecting it, and they're coming out of left field, and they're like, you're just going to swing for, to knock it out of the park. This one, if they let it all hang out, and God, with Deadpool, it means it'll all hang out, maybe it will still be fun again. Yeah.
I thought you were going somewhere different with that let it all hang out.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you pulled it back.
Please be aware, members of your audience may be under 18.
Right. Marianne.
So one of our dear friends that everybody on this panel knows accidentally tweeted what is probably a true spoiler for the film. And I called this friend of ours on it, and they immediately deleted the mention, which to me means it was true. And if it's true, I am going to be very unhappy, and I think it explains 100% the reason for the reshoots, and I think it explains why the original director left, and I think it would explain a lot of different stories we're hearing about the test screening being good versus being the worst thing they've seen.
So what was it?
I'm not going to say, because there's going to be people who are going to be really mad.
Does it involve butt chugging?
No, it does not.
Just wanted to...
What is that, Chris?
Okay, well, let me just explain. If you've seen... What?
It's that thing.
Do you want me to explain what butt chugging is? Who here knows what butt chugging is? Raise your hand. Okay, you're sick. It's where basically, that rather than ingesting alcohol orally, you ingest it differently.
Yeah.
Because please be aware that many members of your audience may be under 18 years of age.
How did we get here again?
Okay, but because butt chugging is going to be in the zeitgeist, because if you've seen the trailer for Blockers, some call it Cock Blockers, I happened to see that movie recently, and oddly enough, just because it's not on our list of movies to talk about, but I'll just say, best comedy I've seen this year, could end up being one of my favorite films this year. I didn't think I'd be saying those words. So if you have an opportunity, Blockers, I think, opens in April, and butt chugging will be a thing, and I think you really need to see it. It's a vulgar sex comedy, and we've kind of seen this movie before. It's like, three teens want to lose their virginity, and they make like a pact, except this time it's three girls going to the prom, and their parents find out that they're going to lose their virginity that night, and the parents try to stop it from happening. It's not only is it hysterically funny, it's just a great conversation about what we're all talking about now. Yes, see, I see you nodding. So butt chugging. So I'm just throwing that in. It's a bonus feature, okay? But Deadpool 2, that's interesting. Now I want to know what you're talking about. But I think I'll just go see the film. Deadpool 2, Charlie, and yeah. Sorry for that aside. Butt chugging, sponsored by, anyways.
I can't wait.
I liked the first. I didn't love the first. This looks just more of the same. Yeah, I don't care. I'm sorry. I'm not the biggest Deadpool comic book fan anyways, and just to see a movie with him, like, it is what it is. I'm sure it'll be okay.
When did the little boy
Yeah.
die?
Yeah. Kevin Rubio asks, when did the little boy die inside you, Anthony Ray Bench? Oh my God.
Around 3 o'clock when I needed a nap.
You've just summed up Anthony's life. One thing that Marvel has that Fox doesn't is consistency. I mean, Fox can put out Days of Future Past and then put out Age of Apocalypse. I mean, that's the feeling I get from Deadpool. You know, love the first one, and now I'm just waiting for the huge disappointment of the second one. And God, I hope I'm wrong.
Okay.
Well, the second one already has a little bit of an uphill climb because the first one was so unexpected, and you kind of went into it surprised at how vulgar it was, how good it was, how funny it was, all of these things. So the second one starts here and now has to go up from that, which the trailer, the new trailer that just came out this week, you know, when it said from the studio they brought you 27 dresses in The Devil Wears Prada, I laughed out loud on my couch. So I just thought I thought that was kind of genius. So I think they can do it. I don't think it'll be worse than the first film, but I think that the loss of the kind of surprise value that the first one had, you don't have. So equal may seem like a disappointment. And by the way, you drove the only child that was in this audience out.
Oh, for real? There was a kid here? Oh, man. Bummer.
She was
it the butt chugging?
Let's head back to the hotel.
Oh, man. Okay. Well, at least, I mean, one fun thing in the trailer I thought was clever was the trailer makes fun of sequels and part two films.
Well, I mean, the first one was already making fun of the X-Men franchise and, you know, them not being able to afford certain X-Men and, you know, is it McAvoy or Stewart? And, you know, that kind of, if they're doing that in the second one and they're kind of keeping that consistency, then, yeah, I don't think there's anything to complain about.
I think that's the problem with sequels is they miscalculate what we liked about the first film and they don't bring it to the second film.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the fear of this one.
Yeah, I mean, usually what we liked was we hadn't seen the first film yet, and then when we saw it, we liked it. And that you can't repeat that, right? You can't repeat that kind of magic. Okay, a film that's coming out that is going to answer all of our burning questions. One of those important questions is, how did Han Solo get that vest? Why was he so into vests? How did he become friends with Chewbacca? All these questions.
It's an accent.
All these questions need to be answered in Solo, a Star Wars story. Now, we know they didn't spend a lot of time on that title. But did they spend some time on the movie? We've heard, and of course, like any Star Wars film, this movie went off production-wise like snap, just clockwork. Nothing went wrong. It was perfect. Of course, that's not true. But Cliff, I know that you are, you know, next to me looking forward to this film more than any movie in 2018. What are your thoughts on Solo, a Star Wars story, and how about those posters?
Pass.
Yeah, come on, you have more thoughts than I know you have more thoughts on it.
I am vehemently against the concept of this movie at my core. You cannot make a Han Solo movie.
Yes, yeah.
You cannot make a Han Solo movie without Harrison Ford. He is Han Solo. There's no frame of reference for that character beyond Harrison Ford. There's no literary version, no comic book version, no other TV show. There's nothing. Your only image of Han Solo came from Harrison Ford. And so to pull that DNA out, all you're going to do is either a Harrison Ford imitation, or you're going to deviate completely from that. And at that point, it's like, well, why do a Han Solo movie in the first place if you can't? It just seems like a really bad idea. It just seems like a really bad idea, especially when you have such a rich universe to pull from and characters that you could tell stories about. And I mean, did the prequels not teach us anything about backstory and that maybe sometimes more backstory is not the best thing for characters?
Well, I think
a mystery is okay.
Exactly. I was going to say mystery. Alan, vests.
Yeah, I mean, we're of that age of where we saw it in the theater when it came out. So there was no pretext or anything. We just saw this awesome film. And I think what Disney and Lucasfilm is trying to do is basically recondition us to view the franchise as something different. And this is that example to change the tone so much that you fire the original directors who gave that wrong tone, apparently.
Well, is it a case of kind of like, and we being all comic book fans here, I assume you are, you've read a few if you're at WonderCon, is it a case of you're just sort of going back to the well and kind of just scraping the bottom of the barrel? Like when you add crypto, first you had Superman, then Supergirl, then Superboy, then the Super Family, and this, and Batman, and Batmite, and Robin, and this, and Earth 2 Robin, and has a green cape, and we could go on. But like when you start adding these characters, it's when you Cousin Oliver it, or when you Poochie, these references. You guys have to get one of these. When you're adding a cute, although I didn't mind the Porgs, who didn't love the Porgs?
Love the Porgs.
One person on the panel, and
so cute.
only 3 or 4 people here in this whole group.
They were better in the movie than in the trailer.
Well, yeah, okay, but so yeah, is it just a case of we're just scraping the bottom of the barrel for stories? Like,
well, I think one thing The Last Jedi did was it forced them to expand the world a little bit, or a lot, to be able to tell more stories. Whether that was a good idea or not is to be seen. But I think that's Disney's plan, is just let's expand this universe. And sure, we're going to piss off a lot of fans in the process.
Cool.
I can't wait. I am so excited for this film. I am so stoked. No.
Little Anthony's back.
It looks like crap. There's only one character from the original trilogy that I want to see have a solo, pun intended, film, and that's Obi-Wan Kenobi. I want to see what he was up to between episodes 3 and 4, and I think there's a lot of potential for kind of like an almost intergalactic samurai film starring Obi-Wan Kenobi, or starring Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi. I would love to see that. I have no desire to see Han Solo or Solo a Star Wars story, but I'm going to because it's Star Wars and I'm a sucker. So they have my money already.
Charlie.
All right, I'm going to be the positive voice here because I've spoken to people who've seen the movie and actually like it, and they think it's really good. I think that Cliff's concerns about Harrison Ford and Han Solo being like the only interpretation there could possibly be of Han Solo is kind of moot when you look at the Bond movies or the Indiana Jones movies. Or
But,
just like,
but
I
the
feel
Bond
like,
movies were based on books, so you could always go, we're going back to the source material, we're going to look at the way Ian Fleming drew this versus...
I know, but I think you're just thinking of this too in such a limited fashion that you can't see that there are other opportunities for Han Solo beyond Harrison Ford, in the same way they recast other iconic characters that people, I'm sure back in the day when George Lazenby took over for Connery, people thought like that was going to be a disaster and Bond was over, and it turned out it wasn't. So I just think that maybe just give it a chance. Maybe just see the movie before you go hog wild trying to destroy Han Solo. I think what I wish is that it wasn't a prequel or an origin story. I don't want to see the vest. I don't want to see Han Solo's version of getting the scar on his chin. I don't want to see that type of stuff. But I would be curious to see a one-off adventure like the film version of Han Solo at Star's End or Han Solo and the Lost Legacy, those books that came out, where they were just Han and Chewie adventures. Like that I would love to see. I think maybe our best hope is that it's a Casino Royale of Han Solo. It's basically it's an early proto-adventure for Han. We get to see some origin-y type stuff, but it lays the groundwork for more adventures, which I'm always happy to see. If you don't like it, you don't have to go see it. That's the thing. You can just give up on it. Give up on Star Wars, Cliff. Give up on the child and you.
No, I won't give up on Star Wars.
Oh, that's so sad. My whole thing with Star Wars recently is that it's become really apparent that the series is meant to grow with us as people, that when you're younger and you first encounter the films, they are, I don't want to say juvenile, but they appeal to the child in you. And as you get older, especially with the two most recent, they're for a more adult type audience, adult feel. It's still some of the same themes that we've seen before with revenge and death and passion, but it's got more weight to it, and I feel that this particular backstory film is kind of sliding back into the juvenile aspect of it. And so I am less interested in this one than I would be an Obi-Wan film, or I will be for the Boba Fett if we ever get it. Like, those interest me because we don't know as much. We feel, I guess, I feel that I don't know as much about those characters as I do Han.
Okay.
I'm not feeling it. It's not that I think I'm going to hate it. It's just watching almost every trailer that I've seen for the Star Wars movies for the last several. When I see it, I feel some emotional reaction, even if it's just the Falcon on screen. And I barely felt anything watching the Solo trailers. It's kind of like, okay, great, caper flick, let's do this. But what it does say about other characters is myself, and I know at least people I've spoken to, some of them have had strong reactions to another character in that trailer, and that's one image of Lando, and people go, I want that movie. That, right there, give me that movie.
That should have been the movie.
But what it says is, for some reason, people are just very Solo, Han Solo himself is going to be a very hard character to run with, and if they change it too much, as far as bringing this to be a caper film, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if it'll be bad. It'll just be so different, it won't really jive. That's me.
Well, now, so Rian Johnson, it was announced, has an upcoming trilogy. And David Benioff and D.B. Weiss of Game of Thrones also have an upcoming series of films. Jon Favreau's going to do some Star Wars TV series. Mm-hmm. They've announced a lot of Star Wars. Are we being oversaturated with Star Wars films?
Yes.
Anyone on our panel, jump in. Who?
Look, when I was a kid and there was a Star Wars movie every 3 years, that was an event. That was like a religious level event. Like that was a pilgrimage to the theater to go see a Star Wars movie. And I will admit, as much as I love Star Wars, as much as I was excited by the idea of seeing a new Star Wars movie once a year, I have to admit I am wondering about the pace, if they can keep it up. Maybe after Episode 9, they take a break, just for like a year at least, and maybe focus on television or focus on something else, then come back to movies 2 years later. Just give it a moment to breathe, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're going to keep making these movies nonstop because Disney spent a lot of money on this franchise or on Lucasfilm, and they're going to want to maximize that as much as they possibly can. I get it, but it's just not. It's not the same. I guess maybe because I'm an old man too. It's like when I was a kid, I loved it. I loved like that kind of weight, the anticipation, and now there is no anticipation because we are constantly flooded now with Star Wars. We got Marvel, we got everything else like nonstop.
Well, I remember before Rogue One came out, I was sort of like, God, why one a year? Like, why are they doing one a year? Why are they rushing this pace? And the episodes are coming out every 2 years. And then I was in Target one day, and I realized they'd cleared out all of their Force Awakens toys, and it was all Rogue One toys. And I went, that's why it's once a year, because your toys have a shelf life, and they need to clear out the old toys to replace the new toys. And as soon as the Rogue One toys are done, the Last Jedi toys went up.
You're
now
a
the Han Solo toys are going to start
kid.
going up.
You never wanna grow
Son of
up.
a bitch.
What?
Talk about death of a childhood. There it is, right there.
Well, you know what? They just started discounting, I don't know, I think it was today, actually. Everything's 10 to 30% off at Toys R Us. Get your Last Jedi toys now. So, are we now? I mean, I think it's interesting we're all sitting here at this comic convention and we're talking about Star Wars as, sometimes I'm just a little embarrassed. We also have like a, group of millennials that are marching on Washington to protest gun rights, and here we are talking about Star Wars. So let's continue. I brought down the house with that one. I had a point. Earlier, I had a point, but I'm just a little embarrassed by that fact. But there's a few more movies to discuss. Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom is coming out. I think the first one was a surprise that it wasn't awful. So it was fun.
Loved the first
it was
one.
fun.
I love Jurassic World.
Chris Pratt. Chris Pratt. He's the human male version of a porg. But what else about Jurassic Park? Where are we going now? It feels like they're kind of just redoing. It's like the second one.
I genuinely loved Jurassic World. I really did, and I know there were a lot of people that didn't like it and felt it was a rehash. But I have to say that the trailer that they put out for Fallen Kingdom, I thought was one of the worst trailers I've ever seen. Every shot in that trailer is like 10 seconds too long. Like, you get the payoff, and then it goes, so instead of him standing there and you don't know if this dinosaur is going to eat him, they got to show what happens. And then, so you're giving away all of these reveals in the movie, and, you know, the thing goes in over the cliff, and then it falls in the ocean, and it was like whoever cut this trailer forgot to trim the ends off of all these shots, and so you end up with all of this extra footage, and it would have been such a stronger trailer if they would have trimmed it up. You know, more Goldblum never hurts anything.
There can never be enough Jeff Goldblum, in my opinion.
Right, but my enthusiasm for it is not as high as it should be based on how much I love the first one. Just based on what a kind of poor trailer that was.
Yeah. All right. Okay. I can see that. Alan.
Yeah, I mean, one thing about Jurassic Park, the sequels are just varying degrees of never living up to the first one. I mean, I saw Jurassic Park in grad school, and you know, you watch it and you realize there's people walking with real dinosaurs. I mean, this is the first time CG was really used effectively in any kind of a movie, and that's just something you can't recreate in the sequels. You know, because we've seen it before. My only problem with Jurassic World was, okay, so we've run out of dinosaurs, now we got to make our own dinosaurs. And I don't know, I'm just kind of slowly giving up on the franchise.
Okay. Anthony, let's see. I'm really curious to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, I just got done with the Jurassic Park panel, actually, earlier today. I love the first one, and the sequels, you know, it's like Alan said, they vary between, I guess, tolerable and just terrible. Jurassic World for me was just kind of a meh kind of situation. This trailer, like Cliff said, looks absolutely, it just does not make me excited about this movie, but I've seen movies with terrible trailers, and they were really surprising, so I'm crossing my fingers, because who doesn't love dinosaur movies? Like, I think everybody does. And I want them to be good, but just the trailer hasn't inspired a lot of confidence. But I hope it's good.
Well, you're lucky you grew up with Jurassic Park films. Some of you remember Doug McClure. I knew it would get that reaction when I said Doug McClure. I'm just saying the land, it's okay, forget it. Yes, exactly, the land that time forgot. Okay, Marianne. I mean, excuse me, Charlie.
No, Marianne.
No, Charlie. And sorry, yeah. We only have a few minutes left, so I have to.
I'm going to say the exact same things they said, where that trailer was just the most disappointing, crappy thing I've seen cut in several years, and that's part of what I do for a living is I talk about trailers, and it was god-awful. Oh. Every part of that is just, you compare it to such good trailers that we've had recently, and there's just nothing about that makes me want to go sit through that film. Whatever film it is that's advertised in that trailer is not one I want to see.
You know, hopping back for a second, one of the abandoned scripts, I think it was for Jurassic 4, by Bill Monahan. No, was it Bill Monahan? No, it was like some really famous
writer. Are you talking about the John Sayles?
John Sayles? No, he did Nice Guys. Anyway, it was about the genetic hybridization of dinosaurs and soldiers, human soldiers, and it would have been like The Dirty Dozen, but with dinosaurs. That's a movie I want to see.
Bill.
I would see that movie. I would.
Ibid.
Oh, good.
No, I mean, really, it's kind of like we've seen dinosaurs now. We've heard the great score. It's got to have a decent, fun, at least fun story. Otherwise, what are we doing here? Because we've seen them before. Now they're just bigger, and okay, we can go back and watch some more kaiju with that.
Well, first of all, I want to thank this great panel. We've run out of time. I want to thank this amazing panel. Bill Waters, Marianne Butler, Charlie Lauzirika, Anthony Ray Bench, Alan Ng, Cliff Stephenson. I'm Chris Gore. Please listen to the Film Threat podcast, and let's get out of here. Thank you. Thank you, WonderCon.